I seem to have to get the camera to be in the right place. It's because I get up, not with the camera, it's literally just over my shoulder. Right. This was, I wanted to put this on because I normally put an image on just because it helps me to focus the camera. This was last night's lesson. And it's kind of similar to what I'm going to talk about now, in that it was the perception of difficulty thing. You know, I don't know if you've seen the, I don't know, I've done a video on hard and easy. I don't think I have, anyway. But this was about the perception of difficulty, because it's quite a complicated image. You've seen it. It's on Everything Everywhere's drawn this. It's on Instagram, and that was the theme, if you like. That this perception of difficulty that we have is often the barrier. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that now. I'm going to talk about the being present. The thing about being present, and I'll show you on this one as well, is that you kind of like connect to the well, you do connect to the subject, and you feel that subject. You've got that essence, that emotional response thing. So that's kind of being present. You're also present to whatever marks are manifested, but you're also present to the way that the medium, the materials are working. So, you know, that kind of, I always use this paper, I always use this charcoal, don't have to worry about it. And you drift into a habitual abyss. It's that. And that's when people struggle with lightness, and they struggle with life force, and with just enjoyment, full stop, because they're in that place of being out of control and not being present. And so all those things are connected, both the feeling, the way you make the marks, the way the mediums are working, all of those you have to be present to and with, so that whatever happens, it happens with purity. It happens with not deliberation, clarity, in that it's not muddied by all the other crap that happens. You know, the stuff like, oh, you must do it this way, you must do it that way, you must use this charcoal, you must use this paper, all that stuff. That they're just pressures you don't need. You really don't need. So the being present thing, which is interesting to say, because my presence with this and with this one, which was yesterday morning, is that in both these cases, the charcoal and paper relationship is not very good, shall we say, mainly because, and I've talked about this before, range of tone. There's tonal range. You know, the medium. People will do that. They'll put charcoal onto some and then spread it with a finger, and you'll see the range that the charcoal will travel. You know, in terms of its tonal value, it can be short, it can be long. You can just, it doesn't matter how far it goes. It's the distance from the darkest part, right, to the lightest part. How far will that charcoal travel? So that is an indicator of the capabilities of the charcoal. There are two indicators, really, I suppose. And people like charcoal for different reasons. So, you know, just bear that in mind. People like charcoal because you can create simulated photographic tonal value. So it looks like photograph, and they can, you know, manipulate it in that way. And the paper and they choose to use, and all the rest of the charcoal they choose will allow them to do that. But for me, I like a decent range. I don't care how long it takes to get from dark to light. I just like a decent range within it, so it doesn't suddenly just drop off. This charcoal suddenly drops off. You want a charcoal that's just going to allow it. It's not a case of blending. It's not about making it smoother. You want a charcoal that has the capacity to create the tones that will travel from one to other. You know, from one end to the other end. You don't want charcoal that sort of drops off. This just drops off. My sons refer to it as on or off. You know, this is the type of charcoal that works on or off. It'll be a combination of the paper and the charcoal that causes that. But it's something you've got to wrestle with. So you end up with too much. You can see it on here, and a lot of people have this as well. You'll see that it's very dark there when it doesn't have to be that dark. And if I try and make it lighter or slightly lighter around it, then there is no travel. There is no travel between. So it's a practical thing, but it affects the way you see what you're doing. So it's being present to what the charcoal is doing in order to understand ultimately how it's affecting the way that you're responding. It's that kind of stuff. So being present isn't just about, you know, the psychological. Just not the mic twice. Sorry about that. It isn't just about the sort of psychological thing. It's also being aware of what mediums are doing, and whether or not it's acceptable, or because sometimes people like that. People would like it to be that slightly outline. So a lot of people will draw in this way, where there's a harder line around things, and there isn't. There is, you know, it doesn't have the photographic blendy thing going on, and I quite like that. I'm not a fan of the photo replication thing when they look like photographs or scenes from a movie and all that, and you can't tell, but it's in black and white. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not sure what that's all about. There's not enough response in that for me, because all you're doing is mimicking somebody else's response. Never a good idea. Anyway, so I'm going to I'm going to draw this guy now. Same charcoal. This is the shop-bought charcoal. This stuff here. In focus. This stuff here, Art Studio Premium. So it must be good. Doesn't tell me whether it's willow or vine or it's not compressed, because it's wonky in places and whatever. So it's not. It's like a real twig. So I'm going to draw this guy. It looks like my friend Pat. Pat would wear a hat like that, and which is good because it means I can connect with him, because he looks like my friend. So there's going to be a lot of, you know, psychological bonuses because of that. As I said before, it's all about capturing the essence. So, but I say I'm using the shop-bought stuff, and I'm sticking it in I'm just looking for a piece that's slightly thicker, if I can find one that will. This one might do it. That I've got it in a bamboo clutch, which is a lot easier than trying. You know, when they get small. But I like them. I like the bamboo clutch because it just means that I can predetermine the length of it. So that's the length. A lot of people, I've seen people draw like that. You know, a long piece like that. My average length that comes out the tin, which is what I'm used to using. This is not what I recommend you. I just like it to be sort of. Let me get an example of what comes out of the tin. So what comes out of my tin of when I'm making it, which is the chocolate biscuit tins. These things like these. So that's the length. It goes in at that length and it comes out slightly smaller. You can see just to the lid there. So I think there's some in there. See, there you go. So it goes in like that. Goes in like that, right? And it comes out like that. That's probably not a true start and finish thing, but that's roughly what I'm putting into it. So I like the charcoal to be that length. So I don't want it to be as long as, as that. I know people do that, as I say. So I'm going to break that off, and then I can. Bearing in mind that I'm going to put the wonky end on it. Won't be wonky. I'm going to put the odd end on it. This is my thing. I don't know. I'm not. The only reason I do this. So I've got one. I'm not sharpening it. I'm putting a flat edge there, and I'm putting another flat edge at the top. Right. So I've got another flat edge there, and you can't see it. Oh, you can. Yeah, you can see it. So it's got one flat edge there. So the top of it, right, is from round. There's one like that, a quite long one. Then there's a shorter one on the other side, which is like that. Right. It's just a chop up. So that bit gets chopped off there, and that bit gets chopped off there. I end up with a strange kind of irregular point. And is just simply to stop me from drawing. At this stage, I don't want to be drawing. It can get rounded and pointed as I'm working with it, but initially I want the line variance thing, so I can make thick lines and thin lines and in between lines. You know, I want all that kind of thing. So yeah, so that's this the being present thing is I think part of the, for me, is part of the backlash. I think that because of the, you know, I said before, I got into the technical stuff, and because of all that, and it became, and I've said this lots of times about playing guitar and do you listen to what you play thing, and I got into that habit of with the making art, drawing things. I got into the habit of going through the stages. You know, this is the outline, I'm going to do. So I was kind of asleep when I was doing that. I wasn't really awake to what I was doing. And hang on, let me just get this in roughly the right place, and I can worry about. I don't have to worry about it. Yeah. So as I said, I'm probably illustrating the need to be connected now and to be present now. But I wouldn't have had that when I was you know, doing the technical stuff. I wouldn't have had any of that. I would have gone through the gears kind of thing, gone through the stages, and you know, the difference on this paper is just incredible. It's just, and I tell you why it's different. One of the things that is different about it is that the lines are, even with the shopbox stuff, the lines are definitive. There's a haze about these lines on this one. On this, there's a certain, paper's massively different. But you can see how crisp these lines are. I probably can't, but their lines are much crisper than they are on here. There's a certain haze, and whether it's to do with the tonal value, this is grey on here, and this has a definite black on it. I don't know. It's grabbing the chalk. You can hear it making more noise than it did on the other paper as well. So you can hear it's grabbing the charcoal. So I got into a habit of doing things in a certain way, and just slipping straight into that, because that's how I always start a drawing like this kind of thing, and I've never really been alive to it. And then when I came back, not wanting to get into that anymore, not wanting to be detached from it, and so basically not wanting to follow this all feeds into the not wanting to follow the methods, the routines, the ways of other people, because I didn't want to get into the habits. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be alive to it. Every mark that I make, I wanted to be alive to it, and partly not conscious that, to be honest, not really thinking about that. I was just doing these things and being unaware of what's happening. That was the thing. I wasn't really doing it deliberately. It's just a emotional response, I suppose, to it. I kind of knew I didn't want to do the let's do it like everybody else thing. But that just seemed like a bit arrogant and a bit, I know better kind of thing. But it's not that at all. It's not. It's just that I just wanted to do it my way, and not like doing it like somebody else. That was the thing. I just didn't want to do it like anybody else does it. I just wanted to find my own solutions, and that just led to all the stuff that you hear me talking about now. Really, I think it's always been a bit of a contradiction at times, like now. I mean, I'm talking about being present to the way that the marks are evolving, but also I'm talking about the practical side of things, which is a consideration that in some respects it is irrelevant. And then, the expectations thing. I expect the charcoal to behave in a certain way. And, all these are contradictions in a way of what I'm saying. But they're not. I mean, they're just part and parcel of the same thing. I need to, it's the same, the dots thing. It's the same thing as that. I just need a basic system that's not going to be complicated or difficult to learn or require any mathematical or considered thought process. And so I just want it nice and simple, hence the dots. Hence the dots became the kind of thing that, when students were saying, we don't understand the way that you're doing the, thing with the ticking in. We don't understand that. So how does it work? And can we make it simpler? And that's when the 3 dots came. So, but as I said, those are not, that's not really, it's not, if it's not dots that you use, it's just, it doesn't have to be anything physical. You can see the relationships of things. You don't have to mark them on the paper and then build your shapes around it and all that sort of stuff. You can just see them as you're actually making, the marks. So a lot of it is contradictory, which you kind of expect it to be, won't you? Because there are different phases in doing this. There is the the psychological connection sort of early stage thing when you move to actually draw or paint somebody. But then there's the practical side of that manifestation. So there's always going to be, a mix of everything. I think what the problem that is that people don't understand the hierarchy of that it isn't just, I'm going to, technically get this exactly right from the get-go kind of thing. And when it's not really about that from the get-go. From the get-go, it's like you just need to talk to the person. You just need to talk to the face. You need to talk to your subject. And then from there, then you can worry about the conversation as it builds. You don't, but people will dive straight into the technical requirement. It has to be this, you see it, circles and whatever else they draw and all the geometry and everything else. You see all that. And there's a time and a place for that. It's not at the beginning though. That's the thing. It's not when you first start that you want to worry about that level of accuracy. When you first start, you're just getting to know the face. It's the how are you doing? Hello, my name's so and so. How are you doing? Kind of phase in a conversation. You can get down to their lifestyle further on, their political beliefs and whatever else. But in the first stage, you don't want to know. You just want to say, hi, how are you doing? And gradually get to know them. So as I say, there are all these things, the technical stuff and the production stuff and all, they're all part and parcel of the evolution of the portrait, but you just got to get them in the right order. And then this being present thing, is the critical thing. You gotta be on your toes. It's like playing a game with your eyes shut. Although I would say, I still like Picasso's description of drawing being, to be good at drawing, you've got to close your eyes and sing. I love that. But I know most people won't get that, but I do get that. I like that. Hang on, I'm gonna get too bogged down with that if I'm not careful. Okay. Right. Yeah. So now I'm just gonna just fiddle a bit with this because we've got to there, to there, to there, and we've got a bit of a big chin there, so that's going to come out there. Even down to observing the the evolution of it, the definition of things and position of things. All of that is still all part of this early stage of being present with it. I think at this stage, if you're not present with it, if it's just a mechanical thing, then you kind of lost it from the beginning. You're not going to get it back. You're not going to get that emotional connection back when it suddenly becomes all about how well you render the eyelids. You know what I mean? It won't, because you're going to get locked into that. You're going to get locked into the rendering of the eyelashes or whatever. And what I'm going to do, because of this being slightly too long, right? There is a it's tiny. It's tiny, and it's sort of kind of should be like there, and then round. And I'm looking at distances here at the moment, by the way. But there's an overall distance that's this distance. That's the thing that I need to correct. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the loosely put the size of the hat on, because it's going to become a comparative tool, a comparative size. So I'm looking at this distance here, right, and then looking at that distance there, right, that one there, and then the again angles all the way down, all these distances, just so I can then use that as a. Let me just put some. I'm using it only. I don't care about the creases. I'm just using it only as a shape identifier. Now I can look at the face in relation to that. I can see that the hat probably is a little bit small. Some of the extremities, but this is the thing with hats and hair. It's always pretty easy to actually change things. And then from there, I've got distances from here, right, and then to the eye. The bottom part of his eye is in shadow, or most of that is in shadow. It's just a big shape there in there, right, and then from, which is I put the bottom of his eye lashes in there, the bottom of his eye in there. I can get it to do what I need it to do, and then the rest of it is just this distance here, for instance, the corner of his mouth to where the chin starts to change direction. We can just get the side there better, and the ear better, and then there's a thing there in his ear sort of coming out like that. It's got a bit of a spocky here going on there, and then so yeah, I think that's sort of rectified it. And the thing is that, going back to the being present to the way the charcoal's working, one of the things about I talked about it in the velocity and the tack velocity and pressure thing. One of the things is that when I'm drawing, it is, and I'm locating, it is right. That is where something should be. That is where something should be. And I don't want the charcoal to be unable to register. You know what I mean? Unable to register the difference, because that's if it's just simply, oh, it's grayer, as opposed to, right, there's a definite edge to his mouth or a definite nostril there or whatever, which I can then, because I found it, I've actually found where it is, so I'm going to make sure that I mark that place, because that's the whole point of this progressive kind of approach to it, is that you're gradually making a connection, gradually building the face. If the charcoal is not doing that because it's making it too grey, or the distance between things don't look like they're differentiated, it gets in the way of the progress of the way that I work. Anyway, some people wouldn't notice that, but actually finding the locations and things, and then marking those locations, and then moving on to that, is quite a critical thing for me. I like that to be the way that it works out. There's some of the drawings that have rapid that evolve rapidly are because of that one thing. That charcoal actually has this facility, the capability to suddenly make a darker mark that differentiates it from other things, and then it appears that the face is there very rapidly because of this identification of the important bits. You know, the markers to say, like, this is where the eye is. This is where the corner of the eye is. This is where the eyebrow is, and that. I think when I noticed, when it does come quickly, I noticed that is the case, and you'll see on some of the drawings that don't look finished, or deliberately not finished, or just simply because I'd found the essence pretty quick. You notice on those they've got clear demarcation of the components of the elements, and that's because the charcoal is working with what I'm doing, so it's working to help me. So again, that's the presence thing. In the practical sense, that's the way that they being present to it, doing those things. But my primary presence is the goal of being present to it is just simply to get things in the right place. But and when I found them, just to nail it down, kind of thing. And because this is you've seen me do this hundreds of times, and it is that. Chase it around, let's search, let's find, bang, that's where it lives, let's move on. That's kind of how it works. And if the charcoal's fighting that, if it's saying, oh, it's a bit, I'm a bit grey, and I'm a bit sort of wishy-washy, and you're going to have to work a little bit to get it to be definitively black or dark, then it's just getting in the way. It's whether it's a paper or it's a charcoal, one or the other, but you're just getting in the way of doing it. And the last thing you want to do is get in the way of your flow, because once you've connected to something, you need to stay connected. You need to stay connected to that thing, to that face, or that thing, because it works with objects as well as with portraits. You want to stay connected to it. You know what I mean? You don't want anything that disconnects. You know that thing about someone walks in when you're drawing and it's like, oh no. And the other one is that you pick it up and put it down. You know what I mean? How many of you have sort of got to a stage? I did this yesterday. I did this yesterday morning, and I said, I'm going to come back to it. I'm going to sort out the ribs on the hat and all the rest of it. And I have done a little bit on that. But when you come back to it, it's no longer about that essence thing. When you come back to it, it's more to do with the accuracy of the ribs, getting the beard to flow properly, and it's all those technical things. You've disconnected. So if you're going to stop and then reconnect, make sure you stop at a point that the reconnection is not dependent on the reconnection. It's just simply a case of the mechanical aspects to it. I've just got to make it look tidy. I've just got to get the tones right. I've just got to, all those sort of things. But that, as I say, is the being part of the being present stuff. You can't really. Well, you can, and I was talking to someone the other day, and they did these amazing acrylic scenes of people doing stuff in a kitchen or whatever. And it takes months to do one of these paintings, these scenes. And I'm so impressed by their ability to reconnect. But the reconnection is with the production, because it was always a production to start with. It was always about how well they could render the teapot on the table and all that sort of stuff. It was always about how well they could render the reflections. So it's not difficult. There's no the essence, in a way, the emotional essence, in a way, is embedded within their original image. It's already there. It's not a case of they want an emotional response in order to interpret their feeling towards the subject. It's nothing like that. It is simply production. So it's not hard to reconnect with production. We just simply carry on, colouring in the gingham tablecloth or whatever. That's and then for me, that without sounding disrespectful, that's not art. That's just illustration. And a lot of people, that's what art is. It is an illustrated reference, an illustrated response, or it's an illustration. And that's what illustration is. You illustrate a scene. And all their artistic development has been about learning to do that, learning to be more accurate, and learning to be more control with their watercolors or their acrylics or oils or whatever it is, whatever medium they use. So their artistic development has been simply that. I want to be able to use the mediums more effectively in order to illustrate better. But as I said, I don't know if I'm peculiar in doing this, because it just seems to me that it's all about response. It's all about the way you feel, and things that seem to be, to a lot of people, seem to be just part of the process. To a lot of people, it's production first, and they'll not get the idea that you should be responding to somebody. Art, for me, I don't get the idea that art is not a response. What moves you to paint things? What is it just because you want to become skillful? I don't know. A lot of people are like that, aren't they? It's just about, I'd love to be able to do that. This is what when people say that no one's creative, or only certain people are creative, and other people say that everyone's creative. I think the latter is true. Everyone is creative. It's just that the way that people think creativity should manifest is specific. So, and then those people who acquire the skills in order to manifest it in their specific way are designated artists, which is obviously wrong, but that's just my way of thinking. But so all this being present thing, it's a difficult thing to get your head around. Some people would require maybe a conducive environment to be able to be present with someone. I mean, personally, I prefer to be on my own, and apart from talking to you, that's how I feel about it. I don't want to be in a group. This is not a group activity for me. It's not something that I want to discuss as I'm doing it, although I do talk about it with you. But I don't want to say, right, the reason why I'm doing this and this, and I do that, but in a way that is, I'm trying to explain my position on this, not saying that this is the right way to do it. And if I do say things like that, then connecting with the subject and things, they're just me trying to help. That's all. But it's a strange thing. I mean, I'm supposed to be doing a demo soon. I can't remember where or when, but I'm supposed to be doing one. And in a way, I hate demos, because there is a perception and expectation of what it is that I do, set by the previous people that did the demonstrations or have done demonstrations. And none of it's true of me, because I'm not like the other people that they've had before. but they have an expectation. The last time I did one, there was, and I talked about these things I talk about with you, the emotional side of things or whatever, and the reason for why I do what I do and all that, and it was not liked. So that's the other thing as well. You got to be careful who you mix with when it comes to your way. So I'd rather not mix with anybody. So it's not my way. It's not being misinterpreted or not meeting someone's expectations, and consequently them saying things about their expectations. It's not right. I like, I want to talk about what I do because it's what I do. But if it doesn't meet what you think it should be, it's not my problem. But I say, so these demos, I try to not do them. I'm going to, if I can find out who it is and where I'm supposed to be, I'm going to just say I can't do it, because I kind of know it will be, and I'm not being arrogant with this, but I kind of know it'll be pearls before swine. And at the end of the day, I do this for me, and I'm not in the business of pleasing someone else, which is weird, because that's what all artists want to do. And all artists want to please other people. I want to help other people. That's my thing. To get away from the oppression of you must do it this way, or I think when I think that some people are able to be present with what they do. It's during in the moment of doing it, I think there's a definite capacity for some people to do that. I think they may be fueled by expectations or some kind of conditioning that, oh, this is how you always do it, and they fall into that trap. But it still manifests in a way that's unique to them, because they're able to be present with it, and they'll slip off into their own little world and all that kind of, usual sort of things. Teenagers do it, and with the little sketchbooks and the and all that. You can see it happens. People have that ability. It sort of gets knocked out as you get older, but people have that ability. It's a million miles away from working with the charcoal that I had yesterday. On this set, well, this is a different paper as well, so it's slightly more abrasive. You can hear it, can't you? It's slightly more abrasive, and but it's a million miles away from yesterday, and mainly because of the line definition. And it's mainly because of that. To say, when I want it black, it's black. And that, as I say, that being present to that, being aware of that, working with that, if you have to, all of those things are part and parcel of doing this. You've got to have that facility to be able to be aware of what's going off with something. You can't, because the other problem to it is that if it doesn't work, you'll blame yourself, when really it is your fault. You weren't present to it, and you weren't responding to it in the way that could control it. But ultimately, it's the medium and the paper that's your problem, rather than blaming yourself for not making a good drawing and all the rest of it. It's not those things, and that's the one of the main problems of not being present, is that what you see as a failure is not necessarily your fault, other than I say you're failing to recognize what was going off early on. Yeah, so I think the other thing about it is, the being able to make dark marks instantly and register things. It can't, for me, it kind of it adheres to the evolutionary approach. It allows me to gradually build things, to move things around, and, because I made that definitively top of the ear or the inner ear there, but I can see where it is, and I can see where it should. If it's wrong, I can see where it should be. It's that thing. But with the other charcoal, it was just too grey too soon, and it got the impression that it was tonally developed too early on. I'm never a fan of getting your tones sorted before you move to another one, and all the darkest darks and all that sort of stuff. Never really a fan of that. So I don't want to get near to the resolution of the tones until I'm ready to resolve the tones. Because the other thing about it is, because of the definitive marking of the elements, and consequently the sort of rapid establishing of the portrait and the feel of the portrait, it kind of inevitably ends up being or capturing the essence pretty soon, pretty quick. And then you've got the issue of the, whether you carry on or not, whether you keep working on it or not. 9 times out of 10, when that happens, I'll stop. On the drawing yesterday, there wasn't that. On this drawing in particular, there wasn't a feeling that everything's in the right place. You can see it's just grey. Can you see how grey it is? And that's kind of, a lot of people like that. A lot of people that like, graphite users will like the soft development thing. It's grey and it becomes, and then if they want darkness, they'll use charcoal or whatever. Now a lot of people like that, but I'm it's not, and you see the images that I use, a lot of them are very contrasted, but it's not that that's the, I'm looking for more contrasting images, and I want to recreate it in that way. It's not that really. It's more a case of the establishing the components, the important bits quickly, and once the important, I said that yesterday, I want to draw only what matters. It's that kind of thing. It's because I'm what matters about the eye is that bit. It's not the bits around it. It's not the eyelashes. It's not. I mean, there are within, there's a shape area there, a combination of shapes. There are every shape that is visible contributes to every other shape, but it's at the same time, it's also not all the shapes matter. Not all the shapes are important to define that area. And that's something else you've got to get used to. Just paint only what, or draw only what makes, the point, only what matters. There's so much that doesn't matter. You don't need to draw that. And the thing about the charcoal that makes these marks quite readily is that it will help me just to identify the bits that are important quickly, and consequently the face will look, or the portrait will look like the person quickly, and have the right essence very quickly, because I'm able just to focus on the bits that matter. The charcoal is allowing me that luxury. It's quite different to me. Most people will just around with draw the eye and it's going to be this and blend and that, all the rest of it. I'm not. That's not, and I get that, and it's kind of a thing that people do, but I'm not. That's not what I'm trying to do. It's that thing of it might be an old age thing, this, but when you're talking to somebody and they start giving you their life story and you think, just get to the point, will you? It's that. And I think if they just said bang, and you know exactly what they were talking about, or what it was the point of they were trying to make, if you know that quickly, sooner, chances are you'll like them more. I certainly would. Somebody comes and gives me a life story when I'm not really interested. I might be interested once I get to know them, but initially you don't want to know it, do you? I think that's what drawing's about. It's this thing, the sergeant thing. And I've said this before many times. This accuracy, efficiency, and economy. It's that you want to be accurate initially. You want to be efficient. Find only what matters, and you want to be economical. Eliminate what you don't need. It's not. That's not hard to understand. I don't hear people talking about that, but it's not hard to understand that that's the logic behind this. And all you want to do really is improve your accuracy, your observational accuracy. That's all you got to do to be able to produce the thing, and then to get the essence in the thing, you've got to be able to connect with the subject. This is my mate Pat. And I'm connected to him because I know him well. I know Pat well. So I've not seen him forever, but I spent a lot of time working with him. And so I know what kind of character he is. So that is, the fundamental, I suppose, of Pat, the thing that makes me want to capture his essence, because I know his essence. But the doing bit, that's not hard. That's not hard. People don't really get that bit. It's like we were talking about yesterday, difficulty. The difficulty on the lesson last night was the perception of difficulty. It was, and you've seen this on Instagram. Look how complicated all those shapes are and all that, getting that. And then, and you're going to go, right, we're going to do a circle, and we're going to measure this, and we're going to measure this, and we're going to measure this, and that's the width of then. And let's think in 3D. We're going to do all of that, aren't we? And the whole thing becomes a nightmare. You wouldn't even attempt it. But what I tried to show was the original. I know it's on this crappy paper, but initially, let's find out where things are. Let's walk around this wood and find out where the paths are. And then once we've found where everything is, let's then start to just nail things down where we think they are, even if they're wrong. Let's just put some markers in the sand and we'll work to that. But as I said, it's just not that hard. The motor skills and the using the medium, because a lot of people have difficulty using charcoal because they're heavy-handed with having used graphite. All those sort of things, you just got to get used to that. It's part and parcel of it. But it's not gonna be the reason why you shouldn't do it, and you shouldn't judge yourself based on, it's too dark. I get a lot of people that do the staccato thing. They're pressing too hard with things. And 9 times out of 10, that's because it's the wrong paper or it's crap charcoal. But the doing thing, they're saying, it's going to be too difficult thing. That is a problem for a lot of people. And if you've got that mindset, you're always going to be struggling. You're always going to you're going to only draw certain things. You'll shy away from doing certain things, and you'll get locked into having the right paper. And I always do it this way, kind of thing. And that's a problem if you want to evolve as an artist. If you want to evolve as an illustrator, it's not a problem, because you're always going to want to use the right mediums and materials and everything else. But that then begs the question: what are you? Why are you doing this? And I've said this many times about the reason thing. So you just got to nail that one down as well. But as far as being present to something, it's not. It's really important that you are connected, and being present with what's happening. But it's not hard. It's a bit like the sort of mindful stuff. It's all about that, really, to be present when you're making, eating, walking, living, for obvious reasons, you know, and you don't have to go through what I went through to understand the importance of being present in your life. But it's interesting that it should be something that is so powerful when it comes to this. Anyway, I'm just about done now. I'm going to carry on tweaking it, but I'm just about done. I just need to get the lips a little bit more pouty because he's got a definite pout. I'll get the pout right, and I may sharpen the charcoal. The charcoal's got a bit of a point on it now, but I may put a better point on it just to be a bit more definite in places. Anyway, so I'll love you and leave you. And yeah, being present is a real important thing with this. So just try to be. That's what I'm trying to say. Whether it's in reference to the subject or the medium and materials that you're using, just be present to what's happening. There you go. Like I say, I need to get the power sorted out, but yeah, no.